I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:31. The clocks in here are off, so I'm using the time over here. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
George Cullis,
Here.
Karen Winchester.
Here.
Mark Freeman.
Here.
Pat Feeney.
Here.
Steve Ruth.
I'd like to make the motion to excuse Steve Ruth. Support.
We have a motion and then second to excuse Steve Ruth from the meeting. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consent agenda. All items listed under consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial, do not require discussion by the Township Board, and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion. If discussion is desired on an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will automatically be moved to the last item under new business. Chair entertains a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Support.
It has been moved by Clerk Winchester with a second from Treasurer Freeman to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, no, we got to do a roll call. We're paying bills. I'm sorry. Roll call vote, please.
Steve Ruth. Sorry. Pat Feeney.
Yes.
Mark Freeman.
Yes.
Karen Winchester.
Yes.
George Cullis.
Yes. Motion carries. Public hearing, 2018 Community Development Block Grant application. Motion would, or Chair entertains a motion.
Move to open the public hearing.
Support.
It is moved by Clerk Winchester that we open public hearing 2018 Community Development Block Grant application with support from Treasurer Freeman. Any other discussion? None appearing? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So, public hearing is open. If you would like to speak on the Community Development Block Grant, please approach the microphone and give your name and address, please.
My name is Cheryl Schaefer. My address is 10317 Radley Lake Road in Davisburg, Michigan. I'm the treasurer for Neighbor. We're here this evening to ask for funding for CDBG. I'd like to ask anyone sitting in this room tonight as a child if they ever had to go without a meal or warm clothes or were subject to financial strain when a parent lost their job and didn't know how they were going to provide for their family. Now let's fast forward to today. How many of you as adults today have been subjected to a job loss or financial hardship at some point in time, maybe during the downturn of the economy? Having to make the choice to either feed or clothe your children or try to keep a roof over your head has to be one of the hardest things for an adult to go through. Well, that's what Neighbor for Neighbor is here for. Every one of us are volunteers and are very passionate about what we do. We're a food and clothing pantry located in downtown Davisburg. We're a client choice pantry, which means we allow people to take a grocery cart and shop for food through our pantry twice a month. Clients also can take bags of clothing as needed. Our financial assistance program is for rent, mortgage evictions, utility shutoffs, and water shutoffs. I'm sorry. We wanted people to know we were here for them. So with social media, flyers, parenting with other local agencies, we have grown leaps and bounds. With that being said, our expenses have gone up dramatically. The ironic part of all this is we currently have 138 families totaling 375 family members signed up just in the village of Holly and Holly Township. That's over 36% of our total recipients signed up with our pantry. I attended the same meeting last year and were told that the CDBG funds had not been allocated. So with multiple phone calls and emails, nothing was returned. We're certainly not going to shun anyone away from the pantry. As most of the board members are aware, we have to follow income guidelines set forth by the state of Michigan. but I will tell you that if someone walks into our pantry asking for food or hungry, you better believe that they leave with a shopping cart full of food, no matter what their income is. This year, we've purchased over 66,000 pounds of food totaling over $20,000, and our food drives have brought in another 15,000 pounds of food. Our financial assistance is currently at $16,000, and the last 2 months of the year have historically been our busiest. This year, we were blessed to give out Thanksgiving baskets, and we'll do the same for Christmas. We've also created a senior citizen prescription program for anyone over the age of 62. Currently, we have 76 households signed up, senior households signed up, that we will be issuing a gift card to their pharmacy beginning January 1st. And I would welcome any of you sitting here today to come into Neighbor for Neighbor to see exactly what we do and how we service our community and neighboring communities as well. So far this year, just in financial assistance, we have paid out over $4,448 just to the village recipients and Township of Holly recipients. Thank you.
Anyone else for the public hearing? Joe? You look like you were to try and decide if it was going to be you or Ray.
I was just being a gentleman waiting for someone else.
Ah.
Joe Mishler, 620 Academy Road. I represent the Holly Area Veterans Resource Center, and we're here to apply for block grant money. I would say about 75% of our clientele, people that come into the Veterans Center for a whole variety of reasons, are senior citizens. And most of them have income issues. Most of them have problems getting out. Most of them have transportation problems. They have other issues like need for medical equipment, that sort of thing. And we are looking to expand maybe our operations so we can better treat these people. In case you don't know, we are the only outreach in Oakland County for claims. We use Oakland County certified service officers, and we have, over the last year, 115 different people have gotten claims through those service officers, and we are putting back into the larger Holly area community about $1.4 million a year in terms of claims, in terms of the amount of money that people get back from the government once they file a claim. But of late, we have had to come to the assistance of a number of widows. Their husbands have died, or in a couple of cases, widowers. And we've had to come to their assistance to provide yard stuff and to help them find other kinds of help and do that sort of thing. We've also helped homeless veterans in this community, and that is a little tough to do. But through some good fortune, we were able to find all three of the homeless veterans long-term housing and long-term help. So we are applying for money from the block grant so that we can continue our operations and maybe expand and be able to do more for senior citizens in Holly that need it. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Linda Smith?
Linda Smith, 6190 East Holly Road. I didn't come prepared because I didn't know that I'd have the opportunity to speak, but I'm here representing Holly Area Youth Assistance. And you have heard our spiel before, prevention of delinquency in youth, and we would use the money like for camp and skill building opportunities and different things to help children that are living in not such good households. So please consider us.
Anyone else for the public hearing? Chair will entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved by Treasurer Freeman, support by Clerk Winchester to close public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we will go to, there are no presentations. We will move on to reports. I'm going to save my report on the farmstead for down in the new business when we have that discussion. Outside of that, we have had a report received yesterday that the Shiawassee River Coalition, which we are a part of, got notification from the National Park Service that the application for the Shiawassee River being named as a national paddle trail has cleared committee and moved on to the final stage. And the announcement, I had heard from one person the announcement should be coming in January, and then somebody else said they thought they might hold off until June for National River Day. I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but it looks like the Shiawassee River, which comes, the headwaters are here in Holly, takes you all the way up to the Tittabawassee River, will become the 23rd national paddle trail in the United States. So, Mark Freeman, do you have anything for your report?
We're working on the 2017 winter taxes, so you'll all be receiving a Christmas card from me around December 1st.
Such a nice guy. Always thinking of us, Mark.
Yeah, mine gets hand-delivered.
Yeah, not all of you have to wait for the mailbox. It just
Yeah.
comes in the office and lands on the desk. One thing I did forget to mention, you may have seen it, we had a couple of days where we had guys out along the road, they looked like Ghostbusters, they had backpacks and they were spraying. We got our first treatment on some of the Phragmites, I know on North Holly Road, these are invasive species that are growing in that area. And we're in the process, we've done our mapping, and we'll be applying for the grant money from Oakland County to treat those areas. And we're gonna be working on a new code on Phragmites, a new ordinance to add to our codes. For those of you that don't understand the whole Phragmites invasive species, there's Japanese wart knot or honey knot, I forget the names of them, they've all got funny names, but these are things, you'll see them along North Holly Road. The cattails grow about this tall. The Phragmites are the tall one with the plumes on the top, and they start to lean over. If anybody's been out by Laring and Fagan Road, you can hardly see around the corner because they create such an obstruction. Well, the other problem with those, and I don't know how many people remember this, but back maybe 5 years ago, 7 years ago, there was a huge fire around Great Lakes Crossing. They had to close off 75. And at the time it was called a grass fire. Well, that was the Phragmites that are burned. These plants grow. They've got a stalk on them that are like bamboo. They've got a hollow center going through the middle. And it's a great way for oxygen to get in there and the fire to go. And they shoot 60, 80 feet in the air. And they can be a very serious concern. And we've got some areas in the township. There's a big area off of Kurtz Road where they're taking over an environment there that's right under the main electrical lines that come into our community. And this ordinance will create a situation where property owners that have that growth, Consumers Power that has it growing on their area, will have to come out and treat those areas as well. And in that process of putting that ordinance together, we're going to try to make it so that it can be a joint effort between the township and the village. So if we're spraying on the road and that growth crosses the road easement into the private property, the property owner won't have to hire their own company. They can do it in conjunction with us, and we'll be able to get that done. So that's what some of the work is going on there. Clerk, your report?
No report.
You have no report? And Mr. Feeney, you're the only trustee tonight.
All right. The Planning Commission didn't meet this month. There was a lack of business. But I did have a couple of inquiries from members that were wondering when we're going to have put on the agenda the woodlands ordinance. And they were looking to see if that was going to come up any time in the near future. That's about all I have.
In answer to your question, the head of the Planning Commission, Tony Engelberg, is with us tonight in the front row. He and I will be meeting with the planner tomorrow afternoon, as a matter of fact, or tomorrow morning in my office, and that's one of the issues that we're going to be discussing with him. We don't have any immediate plans to put it on the agenda, but we will be talking about it tomorrow. Okay? Public comment. These are on agenda items only. Members of the public can address the board on agenda items only, once recognized by the supervisor. Comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. The board may extend this time by a majority vote. Prior to addressing the board, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. A second public comment is available after new business for all other comments. Thank you for your cooperation. Anyone wishing to speak during public comment? None appearing. We'll skip old business. We don't have any. We'll go right into new business. The first thing on there is Resolution 2017-29. It is to honor Robert Brumler. Joe Mishler, if I could call on you to speak on Mr. Brumler, please.
Joe Mishler, 620 Academy Road. On December 7th, we are hosting a program here in the auditorium, and we're honoring two different entities. One of the entities is Robert S. Brumler, who's passed away a few years back. Robert Brumler was a lieutenant in the United States Navy during World War II. He saw action in the Okinawa and Philippines campaign. When he returned home, he came back to Holly and became extremely active in the community. In 1947, Robert Brumler and another gentleman by the name of Weeks, I think in Alabama, started Veterans Day in their community. Some people think it started when the government formally did that, but these gentlemen started it in their own communities. And Bob Brumler is essentially what we are calling the father of Veterans Day in Holly. Not only did he start Veterans Day here, but he was the MC for both Veterans Day and Memorial Day for over 50 years until he turned them over to Steve Strigo. In addition to that, Bob was really active in the community. He was on the school board. He was president of the school board. I believe he was either the first or the second president of the Kiwanis Club here in Holly. I'm not really sure on that, but I think it's either the first or second. He did a lot of things. His main hobby was volunteering. He was the ultimate volunteer. He did a couple of other things which are really important to the community, which some of you may or may not be aware of. He compiled and wrote 2 books. They are called commemorative service books. The first one was done in 1955 and was done through the VFW. That book contains pictures and stories and histories of just about anybody who served in World War II and Korea from the Holly area. These are wonderful books. They have stories, there's a lot of history. They're not written like a regular book, but there's a lot to them. Now, the second book was done in 1995-96, and that brings us up to date through the Persian Gulf War. There's some funny sides to those books. The last book, he tried to get stories of the veterans. And when you see the book and you look at the stories, some of the stories are classic. One of them is right out of the movie Longest Day, where the paratrooper, he jumps on D-Day night and jumps into a chicken coop, or a pigeon coop, I can't remember which. In the movie, they show a paratrooper doing that. So there's a lot of really great stories in there. And Bob was relentless in collecting these stories. I mean, relentless. There were veterans who tried to avoid him. He would catch you in a restaurant, and he'd make you sit down, and on the back of a napkin or a placemat, write your story. And that was Bob. And Bob did a lot of other things in the community, but we are honoring Bob. We are putting up a plaque right across from the village offices where the Purple Heart and the exemplar picture are for Carl Richter. We are also putting up a plaque to honor the recipients of the Carl Richter Award. Had I thought about it, I would have brought the plaques down here, but I didn't. There have been 49 of them, and the way that project started, a guy named Strigo walked into the Veterans Center one day and threw a picture down and said, "That guy's the first recipient of that award. Who else got that award?" Come to find out, he was wrong. The award was started a year earlier. But we spent a lot of time collecting all the names. We have all the names and getting them spelled correctly. And the plaques were made by Ray Fenning. And A-Frame did all the names and that kind of stuff. So and on that evening, we are going to dedicate both those plaques, and that plaque will also hang down where the Carl Richter exemplar picture is. And if you want to know more, catch me after.
All right, thank you.
Do we need a,
I'm sorry?
do we need a motion to pass?
Well, what I was going to do is read the resolution for the public record. Whereas Robert Brummer was drafted on November 22nd, 1943, after completion of Navy Officers Cadet School, he was assigned to LST 629, which is Landing Ship Tank, as officer in charge of receiving the ship from the shipbuilder in Mississippi. Whereas Robert, with a skeleton crew of 14, took a ship from Mississippi to Norfolk, Virginia, to be outfitted for service and to train a crew, they departed for the Asiatic Pacific Theater July 17th, 1944. He and his crew were involved in Okinawa and the Philippines. During their deployment, they returned stateside on January 17, 1946. He was released from active duty on March 10th. Robert continued to serve the Naval Reserve until 1971. He left the reserves as lieutenant commander, and he received the National Defense Ribbon Awards, Asiatic Pacific Medal, Victory Medal, Occupation Medal. Robert's primary hobby was, as Joe said, volunteering. He was a very active member of the Holly Hewlett Brevender, am I getting that? Brevender? Hewlett Brevender Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 5587 and Emil Schwartz American Legion Post 149 throughout his entire life. He was instrumental in starting the Veterans Day service in 1947. He was Master of Ceremonies for both Veterans Day and Memorial Day services and the parade for 50 years. Robert was responsible for creating 2 memorial records of Holly area veterans' books. The first book was done in 55, the second one in 96. Therefore, let it be known that the Holly Township Board of Trustees hereby honors Robert Brumley for his dedication and service. And the chair would certainly entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we pass the resolution.
Support?
Motion by Pat Feeney, support by Karen Winchester. Any further discussion? None appearing. All in favor say aye.
That's a resolution.
Oh, we have to do it even if there's no money? Okay, I'm sorry. It's a resolution. Roll call, please.
George Cullis,
Yes.
Mark Freeman,
Yes.
Pat Feeney,
Yes.
Karen Winchester.
Yes.
Motion carries. Going on to new business number 2, request for special assessment for road maintenance, Great Lakes Homeowners Association. I know this is something that's been talked about before. You want to go ahead and cover some of the back on this? Your microphone.
Yeah, it works.
You haven't got much voice. Just
I know
wanted to
I
make sure
don't.
you were up
Excuse
there.
me. In the past, the Homeowners Association of Great Lakes passed petitions to have the township create a special assessment for the maintenance of their roads. I don't know, is there anybody here from Great Lakes? Oh, but that's representing Great, you're representing them?
None of our,
Are there residents from the subdivision here?
we have residents here, I don't think
Okay.
any members of
The board, yeah, because the board requested,
Okay.
that they be on the agenda and that we readdress moving forward with the special assessment.
Okay. I think one of the important things to understand for those of you that are in this, if you have questions, I don't know, you didn't stand up in public comment, but so that you understand, when you have private roads, they are not maintained by the road commission, they're not maintained by the public, but the one thing that is a concern with private roads is public safety. We have to be able to get ambulances in there, we have to be able to get fire department in there. In an association like Great Lakes, do we know how many members there are total
No.
on there? is it somewhere around 100?
Probably.
Yeah, there's probably 100 people. The problem is, when you have 100 property owners, the problem is getting all 100 people to pay their fair share to help keep those roads maintained, to keep those roads open, to keep them plowed in the winter, to keep them maintained during the summer. When this doesn't happen, it puts the burden on those that are paying. And let's be honest, the roads end up not being taken care of as they should. So what this is my understanding, what this assessment will allow is for each of those homes to be assessed that amount, and it will become a part of their taxes, so that the association receives 100% of their payment. Now, I did want to ask Treasurer Freeman one question. In the event that somebody, will they get that money at the end of the tax season, April? Can you explain how that'll work?
I usually do a disbursement once a week. If the funds are not sufficient to justify doing a disbursement, then it goes every 2 weeks, but no longer than that. The monies that are collected are would be dispersed by check to the organization, the neighborhood organization, unless they chose to have an electronic transfer done if they have an account in the state bank.
I think in this case, when you're doing a special assessment, we either contract out the maintenance or they contract and we pay the bill. So it'd be a special assessment that we would hold the money like an escrow account. And we would pay against any invoices that would come in
Okay, so
on
then,
that.
in that, if it's structured that way, then it would be more similar to lighting assessments.
Yes.
Like Riviera Shores has a lighting assessment.
So by this special assessment, then we're actually gonna take over the maintenance of this community.
I don't think we
Oh,
have to
the
take it,
roads.
we would pay the invoices for them.
So the
And
association would
if they don't do
determine.
them, we would order
Right.
them to be maintained and then pay.
So the association, you're telling me, is still gonna hire the contractor, they're gonna still direct the job, we're just gonna
Yes.
pay the bill?
Correct,
So then the invoice would be presented to us to pay out of their account.
yes.
It's
So
not
where's
actually an
the-
account,
where's
it'd be
the
a line.
checks? I guess in the checks and balances, there will have to be communication between us and their board as to what their monies are available. And at what point do we, I guess I'm just starting to see problems with this. I mean, who gets to pick and choose how the roads are maintained? I'm seeing heads bobbing up, down, yes,
Oh, yeah, they got a pile of questions for this.
yeah. So I guess that's my question.
I think
If-
that we need, this is the research that we need to do.
Was there actually ever a proposal, you'll have to excuse me, my name is Mandy Raymond, I'm a homeowner on South Shore. Was there a proposal that went along with the petition? I did not own my home at that time. Was there a proposal given with the
Just for the
petition?
record,
No,
Karen, when did the petition, when did this actually
I
start?
believe it was
Little
a
over 2
year,
years ago.
December of 15. It was just a petition for us to create the special assessment district, and I think it's up to the board how that's created by law. So I really am not sure of the details.
So then,
I think
in-
that's all the things that we would iron out as we would move forward. We have to have public hearings and get your public input from all of the residents.
let me ask a question of the township attorney then. This is something that obviously we're not inventing the wheel here. This exists in other communities. So,
Yes.
so there would be precedent to look at language from other communities and then fit it here? Or do we actually need a proposed language from the association?
No, it would be a township-initiated, it would be a petition-initiated special assessment district that's created. But I'm sure that there are, is it homeowners association documents, some declarations that have been recorded against the property?
No, it's not an actual Great Lakes Lot Owners Association, is not an HOA. It is an organization through Lara.
So, but it does have articles of organization.
Right, it has articles of organization, but no, it is not driven to our deeds. So they can't lean against our deeds because it is not an official HOA. The original HOA that was for that neighborhood dissolved, I believe, in 1994. So the Great Lakes Lot Owners Association is just an organization, so it doesn't tie back to any of our deeds. Now, when I bought my house 2 years ago, I happened to work for 4 real estate companies. my best friend owns a title company. So you can imagine, before I buy a house, I'm protected on every level. So when they did the search, it never pulled up any association on my deeds or my titles. That's where my question is coming in at this point, because since it's not an actual HOA that's tied to our deeds, how do liens even work?
It is an association, a legal association, however, it's not attached to all the deeds in that subdivision. There's only some, and that's where the problem lies, is that they didn't have the ability to collect on all of the properties. It's an association where they dropped a lot of the bylaws that had other rules. It's just for the roads.
Right, it's just, the
Yeah.
roads maintenance. I was just saying underneath license and regulatory affair, it is not listed as an association, it's only listed as an organization.
Okay.
I guess in the end, it would need to do some research as far as what's out there now. But
But that wouldn't,
As a
that'd
side-
be separate from what what the township could do for them, would be separate from the association.
right, but there may be mechanisms that the township can utilize in any sort of existing agreement rather than go the special assessment route. But if you choose to, you can create a special assessment district based on a petition of the participating, whatever the district ends up being. And we could spend some more time going through the process with you.
Okay, I do have two questions for you with some of the residents sitting here. The fact that the petition is 2015, is that an issue? Does that need to be updated? And I raise that question because, as she said, she wasn't a property owner at the time. My second question is this. There are, and again, I don't have numbers to support this. I can only speak because I've driven through there. So I don't know what percentage, but there are a lot of vacant lots in that neighborhood as well.
Well, and that's where the next question lies in as well, is the structuring for the tax assessment that comes on. If we need to go through first and raise and structure what each person pays per vacant lot, or a homeowner, or such.
Well, that was gonna be my next question, because if you label it as a homeowner, the guy that owns, and I'm gonna make this up, so don't hold me, but so the guy that owns 10 lots pays nothing, but you gotta drive by all those lots on the road to get to everybody else. So the concern there becomes, what part of the road are we maintaining, what are we not maintaining if we call it homeowner, if we call it lot
it's not
owner?
a
Well,
homeowner.
it's by road
Is it
frontage.
per
Yeah,
property?
it's by road, generally by road frontage, and it's every property that's benefited by that improvement.
Okay, so the current structure of how they're taking our, how they're asking for, how we pay, would actually then step in the city's hands and go off of square foot road frontage,
Okay,
opposed to their,
I don't know until I see the documents. I can't give you any definitive responses. What I'm trying to do is just kind of give you an idea on how special assessments would work. But if a district is created, a petition would start the process, the township board would consider it. Township would then pass, there's several months of resolutions that go through to take it through the process. But one of the first steps is to decide, okay, let's take it to that step. Let's decide to create the SAD. Next step is establishing the district, what properties would be included in that SAD. And then the final step would be how much assessed to each of those parcels.
okay.
It takes several months to go through the process, and since we're way in the early stages, we're a good few months to get to there.
Yeah, we just had, we just wanted to see that it no longer sat, because like you said, the petition was back in 2015, and that's the reason why it was added to the agenda, was to, what are we gonna do?
So I'd suggest maybe some internal meetings to educate everybody on the process and where to go from here.
And your feeling regarding the age of the petition?
Well, they have to have a certain percentage of participants, and if that's now invalid, then that's gonna be a problem.
Could that be by sale or, redesign of the
Foreclosure,
lands, and
yeah.
so you
But
could
the
end up with
signatures
less?
on the petition that they have for those that still live there are okay?
Well,
So they would just need to add to that if that's the case? Or do they need
I
to
think
do
what
the
she's
whole
saying,
thing over?
I think what she's saying, if you add more to it, if there's been more houses added, more homeowners added to it, more property owners, that's gonna change whether that petition's, legitimate or not, right? You know?
Well, yes, as far as the number of
Right,
people,
right.
but also, I mean, I'd have to see the petition to tell
Right,
you
and
whether
make
or
sure
not
the
it's
language-
sufficient, just as written.
So I guess what we're gonna leave you with then this evening is we will review the documents we have and issue a letter back to the association for the next step.
If the request is through the association, if you want to do that, or we'd
It
internally
was-
meet with interested parties and decide the next step.
It was through the association.
But I hear, from what I hear you saying is we could call a stakeholders meeting and invite anybody that wants to come forward from that community for that, in that first phase.
Yeah, I mean,
Educate everybody all over.
yeah, based
it is.
on my experience, it serves you well down the line to give everybody an opportunity to be heard and weigh it, whether, I mean, you're gonna be the ones taking on this obligation, so.
Right.
Sure, absolutely. All right.
My concern would be that it would need to be tied to the deed in the event that the taxes went delinquent.
No, it would, and that's a negative of SADs. So once a district is created and a dollar amount is assessed, it gets assessed to all the properties, and everybody wins or everybody loses, because then if there are delinquencies and people aren't paying their fair share, then everybody else has to eat that. So that's one of the things that we talk about when we have these informal meetings, is to really educate what you're getting yourself into when you ask for a special assessment.
Right.
Okay. Anything else on that?
Thank you, by the way.
So then, we don't necessarily need a motion, but our action is going to be that we'll
We'll
set up a
follow
meeting
through,
and,
yep.
and follow through. All right, so we'll revisit that. New business number 3, 2018 CDBG application, proposed resolution 2017-30. Clerk Winchester?
This is our annual application resolution, and we are allowed 30% of our allocation for public services, and then we have to find a project within the township, either I'm trying to think of the word, community-wide or something specific within the low to mod income area. I understand that the village would like funds for the demolition of the car wash on Saginaw Street.
Correct.
And so that allocation would be 10,680. We've had several people ask for services, senior services. So that would be for the public service.
And that amount
that would
was
be-
$4,000.
$576, and that account number would be 731712. I didn't confirm that until later today.
Okay, so then, Chair would entertain a motion for resolution 2017-30.
I would move to approve resolution 2017-30.
Moved by Clerk Winchester, second,
Support.
and support by Treasurer Freeman. Any further discussion? None appearing, roll call, please.
Mark Freeman,
Yes.
Jane Winchester,
Yes.
George Cullis,
Yes?
Pat Feeny.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to new business number 4. 2017 CDBG subrecipient agreement.
And this is our annual agreement that we have to do to get the CDBG funds. Because it's actually federal funds that is ran through the county, so we're a sub-recipient through the county.
So what we're doing tonight is just approving acceptance of the funds?
Yes,
Okay,
of the program.
of the program itself. Chair would entertain a motion?
I move to approve the 2017 sub-recipient agreement.
Support.
And support by Trustee Feeney. Any further discussion? Can we do that without a roll call?
Yes. I guess that answers your question.
That's
Oh,
fine.
I asked if we could do it without a roll call, but go ahead, it's just as fast.
Karen Winchester.
Yes.
George Cullis.
Yes.
Mark Freeman.
Yes.
Motion carries. Number 5, on new business, AT&T Local Franchise Agreement Renewal Proposed Resolution 2017-31.
This is a renewal of the franchise agreement from 2008. Lisa, our attorney, has reviewed it and I believe made some significant changes, and it's ready for approval.
Did you want to make a motion?
Oh, I'll make the motion to approve the AT&T local franchise agreement renewal, proposed resolution 2017-31.
Okay, it's been moved by Clerk Winchester, support.
Support.
Treasurer Freeman. Any other discussion?
Just a quick question. When you said was there anything, was it just cleaning up language, or was there anything that was any major concern that you had in there? It's just,
It's actually a standard agreement
Mhm.
that we can't modify.
Okay,
But
so-
they've left a few blanks in there that we needed to fill
Fill
in.
in, okay.
And so the law came down several years ago that's given us very little wiggle room except
That's what
the
I was
amount.
wondering when you said change, I'm like, how much could we really do anything on it?
That
you know?
was at the other
You know.
thing, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but we put together that resolution, which we'd send to AT&T, which has some, protective language in the event the statute, because it came down very fast, in the
Right.
event something changes with the statute.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Oh, Pat second.
Okay, I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Karen Winchester.
Yes.
Mark Freeman.
Yes.
Pat Feeney.
Yes.
George Cullis.
Yes. Okay, item number 6 on the agenda is the Holly Heritage Farmstead. The last time we dealt with the farmstead, the board approved an additional $50,000 in funding, and we relabeled that project as Phase 1. And part of that additional funding was to cover the additional work in cement work, some of the additional work in the piers and the way that was going to be poured. Since that last meeting, I have met with first of all, Dave Shang, we had labeled as the projects manager. He has since retired, so the one thing we need to do is designate somebody. I don't know if we need to designate somebody as project manager. I've kind of taken it over. Do I have to be labeled project manager, or just by virtue of my position, am I okay?
Yeah, well, I mean, generally, you are okay, but I don't know, are there any particular agreements that you signed for grants or anything that designated Dave?
No, he was our choice.
No, actually, the grant had you in charge.
Right.
So I guess from that standpoint, we would need to shift the name, or no?
Well, I mean, if you don't want Karen in charge, then, yeah, the grants are pretty, it's sticky. You have to really follow that to a T. So I would take a look at it and see what it required as far as identifying somebody. It might have just been they wanted to know who the clerk was,
No, they wanted to know who was in charge of the project.
who would be the contact
Well, I
person.
think that was the grant writer that did that.
Yes, because when we
wasn't
actually got to that language, Karen went, I didn't say that. That's why we named Dave Shang at the time.
Yeah,
Right.
when it comes to grants, I strongly encourage you very frequently to pull it out, take a look at it, and make sure you're following it, because it's a lot at risk.
Right, and that's what we did at the last
Okay.
meeting. We went over, that was the first time that this board had seen the grant and saw the specific language in that. So part of what we need to do here with number 6 is then, with the board's approval, name me as the project manager, because that's what I've been doing with this. And then the second part of that report is, I want everybody to understand that I met with the builder, and the contractor that raised the barn and is moving the barn and is in charge of the project, Ken Brock. And what we discussed was, with the original set of plans, they had talked about the 2 additional steel beams running parallel to the main beam that went under the barn. Now, the main beam that went under the barn put 5 posts on the floor. We're talking about a barn that's 75 feet long, 35 feet wide. The additional beams put an additional 5 posts under each of those, which would have put a total of 15 posts on the floor of the barn. I met with Ken Brock. We talked about how we could eliminate those posts. We then got a hold of Hubble, Roth, and Clark, the township engineers. We had them come out and take a look at the project and redesign the way the beams would be structured. They're basically, instead of 2 long ones going parallel, we will be putting 5 perpendicular to the main beam. They will all then sit on the same posts with the support coming off of the exterior walls and the back wall of the barn. That process was met with the architect. She put it into the plans and certified the drawings. What we're faced with now, and what I want to move forward on, is an additional purchase of $5,100 in steel beams, because if we wait for those beams to go in as phase 2 of the project, then the guys got to come back out, raise the barn to get them in, to set them back down. We could do it all right now. I can do it within the $50,000 that was allocated, so at this moment, I don't need additional funds. But I wanted the board to know that this is a $5,000 expenditure that wasn't talked about the first time around. So as I move forward with the rest of this, I think we're going to be able to keep it all in budget. But I wanted the board to be aware of that. So those were the 2 things that I wanted to discuss on that. To give you an update, the concrete was poured for the foundation yesterday. So we're waiting for that to cure, and then the walls will come in. So the project's still moving along. Weather creates a couple of times where you have to dodge around that. So that's what's going on with the farmstead project. That would be my report for this month on that project. So the only thing we really need to do there is just, through the minutes, name me as the project's manager with Dave Shang's retirement. So I would entertain a motion.
Motion to appoint George Cullis as the project manager for the Holly Farmstead Barn.
Support.
Support.
Motion by Treasurer Freeman, support by Clerk Winchester, to name me as the project manager. Any other discussion?
I think we should then follow through with the report to the foundation that we've made a change in the project manager, and that get their approval based on what Lisa said.
Well, yeah, send them
Yeah.
notification.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I think notification should do it, because I'm gonna say they're dealing with elected officials, so that, they would have to
Right.
know that somewhere down the line, someone could be out and.
Well, and the previous project manager retired.
Right.
Yep.
Has to be replaced.
Right. And I've been working closely with them on the updates. They've actually came out to the property and toured the property, which they had never done before, which surprised me. Here they went ahead and granted $40,000, and they never stepped foot in the place and saw what we were doing. So that was a nice meeting in itself. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mark Freeman,
Yes.
Pat Feeney,
Yes.
George Cullis,
Yes.
Karen Winchester.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right. Number 7 on new business, the Village of Holly Downtown Development Authority. This is an issue that has been rolling around here for a couple of months. I put it back on the agenda tonight. There was another request by Pat Feeney to do so. So I was already putting it on there. Pat had a request in. I just want to make something clear as we start to discuss this. We've attempted to discuss this twice, once in my office and once in the last meeting. Those discussions have not gone well. Pat Feeney has not been willing to allow me to answer the questions or finish sentences. The last time I chose to go on into public comment after I had gotten cut off 5 times. So I requested the presence of the township attorney so we could have the discussion on this matter. And at this point, we for those of you that weren't at our last meeting, it is in the minutes, it is on the recording. But I'll let Pat go ahead and have his say on this. One more time.
Okay, thank you, George. Number 1, George, you didn't put on the last agenda. You threw the agenda away, and you told me you weren't going to put it on, just to make that clear. I apologize to the public for what the last meeting kind of went down to, but I thought it was kind of unfair that we couldn't even get it onto the agenda. And that was where was not very pleased with that. That being said, the issue here is not particularly about having the township supervisor on the DDA board. That is not even a question. That's, there's no right, wrong on that one. The question is how that came about. And the way that took place was, well, let me give you a little background. The way appointed positions are in the village is that you apply for it at the village office. The village president selects a person from that list, brings it before the village to vote on. Democratic, correct way to do it. This was done by Mr. Perkins, and what happened is that he pulled out somebody that wasn't Mr. Cullis. And the village council voted him down. Call politics, call what you want. That's the way it works. That's, So, that is the prerogative of the village president to select that person. That being done, the next thing we know, the DDA, now mind you, the DDA is appointed by the village, made a position for the township supervisor saying, this is for the township supervisor. They changed the rules for that. Now, that took away the right of the village to determine who they could choose. The appointees saying, we're going to choose who's going to be appointed or not. Now, they did take a vote at their, not this last meeting, the meeting before, to approve Mr. Cullis, but it was a meaningless vote because you had one of two choices. You approve him or you leave the seat empty because Mr. Cullis, is the township supervisor. To me, that usurps the authority of the village. And I mean, there isn't a lot to be discussed there. That is taking away the right. Our board does the same way. The supervisor chooses someone who he wants, brings it before the board for our planning commission. I don't think it would be acceptable by our board if our planning commission came and said, you have to have this person in this particular position. You'd say you're taking away your right to vote and to choose. Now, the DDA, I'm not bad-mouthing the DDA. They have done great things in this town. That's not the question here. The question is about the legality. And, at the least, it's ethically wrong. At the worst, it's illegal. And when you think about this, why would you want to see your elected officials have their power taken away from them? And the way I look at it, I don't think this board should be part of that. And, it's not a real involved argument here. Forget about the personalities and everything involved. Look at what's happening here. You're taking away the right and the legal right of the village to choose who they want. Now, granted, some might say, well, the village president could block, people from being on there. This is true. And, I didn't say it was a perfect system, but it is the system. Thank you.
You're good? All right. In the last meeting, you made several accusations that were incorrect, and I'm going to take an opportunity to refute those. One of the things you did, and I have it here in front of me, is you said that that I was not appointed to the Historic District Commission, and that you said, and there are members of that district that said you were not a member and that you were not there. You implied, you said that I walk into those meetings, I take over those minutes, and I have voted on issues there. I have been appointed. I told you can go to the village. You can find out when that happened. So that's a falsehood. Tonight you said that the village council voted not to approve. That's not the case either. In the last meeting, you also said your concern was my actions on the DDA would reflect on the township, and you were concerned about that.
I am still.
Yep. No, I know you said that. In the meantime, though, while you're concerned about my actions on the DDA, you go to the village council meetings, you get up in their public comment, and you make all kinds of statements that aren't true. The village manager refuted those.
Opinion.
You're interrupting again. I asked you if you were done.
I apologize.
I'm going to finish. Now, tonight you made 3 comments that were wrong. The president of the village DDA is sitting here, and I would like to ask him to tell you how that process went down, because it's not the way you said it at all. Mr. Roselle, would you care to speak, please? Yes.
I'm Dick Russell, and I'm chairman of the Downtown Development Authority Board. First, let me give you a little bit of history. I came on the board about 6 years ago, and at that time, Jesse Lambert was chairman of the board. He was also supervisor of the township. He actually brought me along and brought me in. When he left, I got elected as chairman and have been since. When Dale Smith became supervisor, he came on automatically because that's the way it had been. And he came to 2 or 3 meetings and decided he didn't want to be on it. He opted out. So we didn't have anybody from the township. I felt right along that the township should be represented. There's tax dollars at stake. They've got things that I think they should look after, on the DDA board. So as a board, what we did was we had amended our bylaws when Dale Smith quit. So we went to the village attorney and we had them redraft the bylaws to put them back the way they were. And basically what the bylaws said was that we would make space for a representative from the township. We didn't specifically say we had to have the township supervisor. We said we were making a seat available for the township. It was then that Mr. Perkins, who does have the ultimate authority on who he appoints, and I believe Mr. Cullis had made application.
Well, if I can,
Go ahead.
prior to that, you read my letter of intent
Yes.
to the board.
Yep.
The board discussed it, which included Mr. Perkins, the village president. The board discussed it. They voted unanimously, including President Perkins,
Yes.
to recommend my name to the board for the DDA.
Right.
Correct.
And let me clarify, that is a recommendation. We're not trying to take any authority. We know we don't have that authority. We never expected that we did. From there, all we said was, as a board, we'd like to have that position back on our board. We'd like to have the township represented.
So, but the village president voted unanimously
Yep,
to
we all did.
recommend my name to put it back on the board.
That's correct.
And that's where
Yep.
the confusion started, because from after that, then things changed.
Yeah.
And that's where the discussion was.
I never meant to start any problem with the township. I don't want to have that. I was really trying to open the door and make an accommodation because I think it'd be great if you were represented there.
But the village council never voted that down. They didn't take a vote on it, actually, that night.
Right.
And nothing was done. You've made so many accusations over the
Okay, George, you
No,
done?
I'm not done.
Okay, then finish
I'm
up,
not
George.
done.
Go right ahead, George.
You have made so many accusations. You typed a letter and you took it door to door, accusing the village, let me finish, accusing the village of wanting to put the old high school in the DDA. And in that letter, you stated that would make it commercial property. Then you accused a group of people of trying to fast track it through behind everybody's back. None of those statements are true, and yet you're concerned.
Stick to
I'm
the
not
DDA
done.
discussion,
I
sir.
am not done. I'm not going to go through this with you again. You made all of those accusations in that letter, and in that process, you then turn around and you're concerned about my actions on the board. I called you in my office to talk about your request to put that on there. Amy Folks is here. She is an employee of the office and was in there that day. I tried to have a discussion with you that day. You cut me off 5 times. I said the meeting was over, you could leave. And you said, so you're not going to answer me. I said, you won't let me talk. You took your hand, you buttoned your lip, you crossed your arms and said, go ahead. I opened my mouth. I started to talk again. You cut me off and I said, I'm done. And at that point, I threw it in the wastebasket. So let's get the record straight. I tried to give you an opportunity. In our last meeting, you cut me off 5 times. I went into public comment and I talked louder than you until I was done. So I have tried to have this discussion with you.
First of all, I want to point out something. The letter in which he speaks, I never claimed
Excuse me,
to, I never
Mr.
said
Freeman.
anything.
Mr.
Oh, I'm
Freeman was
sorry.
trying to
Sorry,
talk.
Mr. Freeman.
You want to let Mr. Rozell finish?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Before we move on?
Sorry, Mr. Rozell.
No problem. And if you got other questions, I'd be happy to answer anybody. Also, Mr. Perkins is here tonight, and if you need more clarification, I think he can pretty much corroborate what I just told you.
Thank you, Jim Perkins, Village President, 104 Elm Street. At first, I was tentative about the appointment. I was told that the township board had voted to remove themselves from the DDA, and once I received clarification from both the village and township attorney, I appointed Mr. Cullis to the DDA. I'm looking forward to it. There was some miscommunication, but all of that was clarified to me, and I went ahead with the appointment.
Right, all right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, I just want to clarify on, which isn't even a township matter. Piece of property in the village went up for sale. My personal opinion is that sometimes communication by the village council to the residents is not very good. I presented a letter just with my name on it, and my email address on there stating that the property had changed hands. The village manager at a meeting just a few weeks before had made the comment, and we can show tapes. It's ridiculous to me, but the fact of the matter is that the property had been sold. He was looking at the possibility of putting the property, having it part of the DDA area. That's a fact. That's what Mr. Walker said. And I thought, and Mr. Walker, if we want to get into it, Mr. Walker accused me of denying people the right to the use of their property, whatever. Fact of the matter is, when it comes to the village matters, I am a village resident. I have a right to speak out about what I feel. There's times when I disagree with George, but I don't call it lies and slander. I just say I disagree very strongly at times, I will admit. But, this nonsense that, they feel he can, everything because I disagree, he doesn't like what I say, it's a slander, it's a lie, it's this. First of all, if I'm mistaken about the historical committee in the heat of the moment and I was mistaken, that's fine. But we're talking about the DDA matter. We're not talking about that. And the fact is that we, at this board, did withdraw from it one time as a member of it. Mr. Perkins, that's fine. That's his pick. He changed his mind on it. There was a meeting in the summer when they met here at the Carl Richter Center about the marijuana issue. They met in the hall, in the main lobby here. And this is what started the issue with me. This board, no member on this board heard a word from Mr. Cullis that he was going on to the DDA. Didn't ask whether that was something that, we wanted to see him on there. Knowing the history that we had withdrawn from it before, never made mention of it. At that meeting, they turned down Mr. Perkins' first choice from the lumber yard here, and the gentleman who owns the lumber yard, Mr. Curtin. And the talk was they wanted Mr. Cullis. That's a fact, out in public, that they wanted Mr. Cullis on there. Fine. We wait till our next meeting, board meeting here, never says a word about it. The last meeting, public comment, knowing how strongly I felt about the subject, that I had brought the subject up that he wouldn't put on the agenda. Public comment, his report went by, never said a word, still had a chance to say, yes, I am now, a member of the DDA. Why not? Why wouldn't you tell us? And quite frankly, I just found that, inappropriate. When you say, well, it's just an advisory position. Well, kind of interesting. There's the spot. If you don't choose the person for it, we're not going to accept anybody else. I guess at this point in time, the way I look at it is we, as a board member, when we go on to another committee, and we're using our position here, if I go on a board saying that because I'm a trustee of the township, I should advise this board that that's what I'm doing. That's what this originally started off to be. And then the actions of the DDA, I just do not find acceptable. Not questioning Mr. Cullis's ability or what he could bring to the table. There are numerous things in this town. You can look at the farm project. Not questioning whether, it's the matter of how it was done. That's what I had the problem with. And, at this point in time, I will admit I was not happy, but you know, it's funny why you wouldn't have why you wouldn't have brought the subject up to put it to rest the last time and just said, look, it's on the agenda. Invited these people along to state your case. You know, and to come to this point at this end, I guess we'll just put it to rest here. I make a motion that we remove ourselves from any member of the township board from the DDA representing the township. I mean, we'll put it to rest here, and I have a feeling I know where this is going, so we'll just put it to rest, and we'll speak no more of it after this.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to remove the township from the DDA. Is there a second? None appearing, motion dies.
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
Yeah, Mr. Feeney, I understand everything that you said. And you being a village resident, I understand your concerns on how the village government operates, especially if you happen to disagree with something that they've done. And you've expressed that. What I can say is this, that the township government and the village government have a professional relationship with mutual respect. The township government does not try to micromanage what the village does, and we do not criticize how they operate. And in return, they offer the same respect to us. So that is the primary reason why this board has not taken any action, because as I see this, the village DDA has the right to operate without any undue influence from this board.
I will just add two things to clarify. The township board in the previous administration agreed to let Dale Smith step down from the DDA board. That was his request. I did check with the township attorney before I submitted my name, excuse me, to the DDA to see if that was something that would cause a problem. You remember my calling you on that? Hello?
I don't, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Okay. I can bring up a bill to show that it happened.
That'll jog your memory.
You cashed the check. So I did want to clarify that, and then moving forward, we will go on to, the other thing I wanted to clarify is the purpose for moving that building into the DDA is it allows that developer to be eligible for grants going forward. The clarification is that while moving it into the DDA will not automatically make it commercial property, which was the claim that was in your letter. So those were the things I wanted to clarify. Now we will move on to public comment. Is there anybody that would like to speak at this time? I see a hand way in the back. We'll start back there. Start with your name and address, please.
Yeah, I'm Joan Wolf. I live at 11021 Eagle Road. I am the director of Neighbor for Neighbor. For the last 4 or 5 years, we have begged for money from you guys. Now, it's fine. We didn't get it. It's fine. But I need you to know there are a lot of poor people in your area. And we can look the other way and see it doesn't happen to Holly. And Davidsburg is so far away from Holly. We're like another community. But we take care of Holly. So I want it to be on record. We take care of Holly. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ruth Andrews, I live at 10200 Oakhurst. I have been here, I'm with Neighbor for Neighbor. This is my 3rd time before the township for the community block grant money. Last year, we were told that you hadn't decided how to allocate it and that you would be sending out requests, Karen. We have contacted you almost monthly the last 6 months with no reply ever. Cheryl's contacted you. Yes, Cheryl has contacted you. She has emailed you. We've gotten no response. So my question is for 2017's block grant money, which from what I understand from the other municipalities should be dispersed in December, what did you guys allocate it for?
It's still on hold. We're not allowed to release the money until the.
I
the
understand that,
federal
but what did you
government-
allocate it for?
Emergency services.
To whom?
You have to, we have to go out for bid, so once they release
But
it,
that
then
bid
you
should have
bid.
been done earlier in 2017. You are now, for 2018, starting to open it up for bids. So my question is, when did you open up 17's
It's
bids?
not opened up yet.
Well, when would you be opening it up? Because the money's released in December.
It's not released yet.
But I understand
for
that, but
27.
Yes,
other,
everything's on hold.
every
It's-
other municipality that we have gone to, and we have gone to every one in the areas that we service, they have taken their 2017 money, they have allocated it, knowing full well, we've signed our contract, that the money doesn't come in until 17. Springfield Township, this is the way it's been for the last 3 years since I've been involved.
Okay, well, I can call and check on how they do it if I wait
Well,
for
I
it to be
don't,
released.
so
and
I
then
don't understand then, 2018, when you were doing the proposal, did you haven't allocated it then?
No,
Because you
we
were
can't.
talking about $10,000 for the car wash to be torn
We
down.
can't allocate that yet. That's what we're gonna request in our application. Then there's a series of calendar time where the programs.
Yeah, I understand that.
Right.
But, so how much did you request for 17?
We don't request it, they allocate it
You just
to
got
us.
done telling me you requested it.
Well, we apply, I'm sorry, I'm confused by your.
And I'm very
questions.
confused because, again, I've sat in Rose Township, Springfield Township, Groveland Township consistently.
Could I ask you one question? Because,
Absolutely.
You know, and this is a confusing situation, and
very
I think
much
part of the
so.
problem is when you use the word allocation, we receive the allocation from the county. We don't get to request how much. But the way I understand it, once the allocation is made, this is the number, the target number we have to draw from.
Absolutely,
We do
correct.
have to request from that. You mentioned that it's already been done with Springfield. Has that money been released to you? Has the check been cut?
In December it will be, but we've been given the dollar number that we'll be
That you will be
receiving.
receiving in December?
Yes, so then
Okay.
my question, okay, so if you haven't, if you guys do it differently, and in 2017, when you get your check in December, that's when you're sending out requests for that
We don't
money.
get a check until we actually have a contract with you.
So then, if the check's being released in a couple of weeks, who are you requesting contracts from?
We don't get a check. We don't get a check until we actually get something from the vendor that says that they've used those funds.
Okay,
We have
who
to
did
have
you
a
do for
contract.
2016 then? Because I was at the 2016 meeting too.
I'd be
And I was
happy to
told,
talk to you in my office
I
if you'd
don't
like
know
to
that
do
I believe that because we've tried to get a hold of you
Well,
and we
ma'am.
get stonewalled.
Listen, let
No,
me
I
do
don't
this,
believe
because this is
that.
complicated. I'll work with Clerk Winchester. There's a gal down at the county we'll get a hold of. And
Absolutely
we'll set
there
up
is.
a meeting so that you
Because the
understand.
rule is
It
if-
is,
if-
I will tell you this, as the new supervisor, it is a very complicated process.
understand
And we
that.
get tripped up with these words like the allocation and received and
Okay.
disbursement. I know that the allocation comes to us in a number form, and the way I understand it is then the federal government put a hold on it,
They did.
and that's what I'm just telling you what I heard.
Okay,
But
well, and
I'm
I
telling
think
you, we're
maybe
gonna-
checking with some of the other municipalities,
Well, and
because
that's what we'll-
Springfield Township's money was never put a hold on. So in 2016, you would have gotten, in December of 16, you would have gotten the money from the year prior. Who did you disperse it to?
We don't get checks like that, is what I'm trying to say. We don't.
I
get-
don't understand.
That we get, money is allocated, it sits at the county until we have a contract with the vendor. When the vendor is able to bill us and invoice us for whatever it is.
But you have not, in the last 3 years, put out any request. I can give
I
you
do know, ma'am, I
bills.
can tell you that, take a deep breath.
I'm
I-
fine.
Well, I can tell you this, the money was allocated to Haya over the last couple of years, but it's my understanding the money's still sitting there because they haven't used the money, they haven't,
I understand
given
that.
it
So,
direction.
and from what I understand, if you have not used your money, you then have to turn it back over to Oakland County. I did call Oakland County, and you have not turned any money back over to them.
Right.
right, well, so what I've said to you, because
I'm
I can't
confused
go
with
any
the
further.
years too, because I don't
Okay.
have it in front of me.
Let me
So-
do this. leave your name and address, or here, let me give you my card. You can
I'll
contact
just,
me.
I'll shoot you an email tomorrow, not a
Okay.
problem.
All right. What I'll do is I want to get a hold of this lady, because it is confusing. I've asked some questions myself. I'll get a hold of this lady, we'll have a meeting, we'll get a better understanding on this, and we'll move forward and get you some of the answers you want.
Perfect. Yeah,
Okay?
I mean, I guess the big issue, and we're really passionate about what we do, but 35% of our people come from Holly and Holly Village, and when a village resident's water gets shut off, and they call the village to make arrangements, the village says, call Neighbor for Neighbor, they'll give you some money. So we're
And
just
the
asking for.
village gives you some, they give you their allocation of money?
No, we've gotten zero from Holly Village or Holly Township
Okay,
ever.
well, I can't speak on what the village
I
does.
understand that.
But at the same time, I will do that for you moving forward.
Perfect.
We'll set that up. And the second thing that I'm going to offer you, this is not as the township supervisor, but this is the director of the Dickens Festival. We have offered blessings in a backpack. We've offered these nonprofit groups. You can come to the festival, set up a booth, contact me privately on that one as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
And you guys are welcome. We have a 3-weekend festival. You can come up and set up a booth. I've got 2 things that I'm looking for people to take over, and the profits go to you. The only thing we ask is at the end of the festival, you report to us how much you collected.
And I appreciate that. I do.
Blessings
But I'd
in a
like to see
Backpack has
support from
collected
our
over
government, so.
$1,000 each year
Thank
that they've
you.
been with us. So if that'll help you. All right. Anyone else for public comment? I see a hand halfway up. Come on. No, actually, it's 3.
Well, we'll try to get this on a positive note. The Holly Area Veterans Resource Center, we have a resource fair coming up this weekend. And Pam Krantz is in charge of it, and it's going to be pretty big. The Secretary of State's mobile unit is going to be here. We have a food truck coming in, and we have about 40 or 50 vendors. When I say vendors, I don't mean people selling stuff, but we have real estate people coming. We have a variety of different organizations that deal with all kinds of people who need all kinds of help. So it's 11 to 4 right here in this building, and it's free. Okay. Unless you want me to charge, we could do that. The second thing is in February on the 17th, the Holly Area Veterans Resource Center is going to have a fundraiser. I know, you just all went, oh God, a fundraiser. We're bringing in Pure Pro Wrestling. They showed up at our doorstep because somebody else rejected them, and after we got done talking to them, we said, wow, that beats a spaghetti dinner any time of the week. And when we got done talking to the guy, a young guy who was in his 30s came out, and he was very passionate about it, and he told us all the things that we could do, and like, wow, okay. Now, if any of you elected officials would like to participate in that wrestling, we can get you in the ring with one of those wrestlers. It would only cost you so much, but just think of the publicity you'd get. You would think the guy running Dickens Festival would love that.
Bah, humbug.
Just okay, at any rate, that's my 3 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. The wrestling thing is not only the center, but it's a joint project with the American Legion. Thank you. You woke up in time to tell me.
Okay. Anyone else for public comment? Richard?
I'm going to speak about Richard Kinnaman, 433 North Saginaw Street, just so that George doesn't have to talk about the Dickens Festival by himself. As a person on the board for the Dickens Festival, I would like to say that it is coming up. It begins on the 24th with the tree lighting parade and ceremony in the downtown. That is our first weekend then, the 25th and 26th, 3 weekends festival. We invite everybody to come and be a part of that. It actually kicks off in 2 nights from tonight with the Fezziwig Ball, and we do still have some tickets available for that if you would like to come and be a part of that.
That's being held at the Holly Hotel.
At the Holly Hotel,
And
yes.
at the tree lighting ceremony, in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce, we will be announcing the Citizen of the Year, the Family of the Year, the Business of the Year, and the Organization of the Year.
Yep.
And I can tell you there were quite a few
Very good
nominations
submissions
that came
this
in,
year.
and it was kind of tough picking.
Yep.
You never like to pick somebody over the other person for all the things they've done for the community. So those announcements will be made at the tree lighting ceremony as well. Our township attorney, I want to thank you for being with us this evening. Did you have any comments you'd like to make?
No, the only thing I would say is I know it seemed contentious, but as a bystander just looking in, I think it's great how passionate you are all about what you do, and it shows in how you talk. Your passion, it exudes passion, and I think that's great that your communities have such great people on their boards.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Then we will adjourn as soon as I put my glasses on so I can see the time. 7:52 p.m. Oh, and by the way, hey, Joe Mishler,